name's Robert, and I'm an addict.
Robert.
Yeah. Welcome to the third step tonight. We're going to start off in the basic text, page 25, step 3. Everybody got a basic text? Okay, good. All right. So step 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. As addicts, we turned our will and our lives over many times to a destructive power, the dope. Our will and our lives were controlled by drugs. We were trapped by our need for the instant gratification that drugs gave us. During that time, our total being, body, mind, and spirit was dominated by drugs. For a time, it was pleasurable. Then the euphoria began to wear off, and we saw the ugly side of addiction. We found that the higher our drugs took us, the lower they brought us. We faced two choices. Either we suffered the pain of withdrawal, or we took more drugs. For all of us, the day came when there was no longer a choice. We had to use. Having given our will and our lives to our addiction, in utter desperation, we looked for another way. Basically, what this is telling us is that we're talking about turning our will and our lives over to the care of a power greater than ourselves. And we did the same exact thing with drugs. We took our problems, our happiness, our sadness, no matter what life dealt with us, as long as we had the security blanket of the dope, we were okay, right? Everything was tolerable, especially in the beginning when the drugs were working really good and filling up that hole and giving us the ease and comfort that we were chasing. We had no problem, trusting that the dope that somebody sold us was actually dope, right? Put it in our body, not knowing if it was poison or not. So we know how to demonstrate faith. We know how to try faith, and hopefully the disease of addiction has beaten us into a state of becoming willing to go to any lengths to gain a spiritual awakening and get a working relationship with a power greater than ourselves that works for us. First off, the first step, without admitting complete defeat, there's no room for a higher power to work on our lives anyway, right? If we don't surrender, which is what the first step is all about, none of this other stuff is going to work. Without having a reliance on this higher power thing, it's not going to work. In the second step, it talks about having the need for faith and sanity. Okay? I lie to myself in denial. Denial stands for don't even know I'm lying to myself. But I know I'm lying, and I continue to lie to myself, believing the lies that I know are lies. You understand that kind of stuff? So if that's not out and out insanity, I don't know what is. And if you've been clean before in recovery and relapsed, and once you've had that clarity of being away from the drugs and knowing that only physical and mental pain comes when we use again, that we've broken our partier. Once we've crossed that line, there's no more fun left in it. We go back to it. It's destruction and pain and momentary relief do we get out of anymore, So we know we're going back for just a little bit. We know it's going to fail us, and we still go back to it for whatever, because we have that trust that it worked for us at one time or another. And that's exactly what we're trying to start building in this third step, is starting to build the same kind of trust on a higher power. And that's what making this decision is all about. That I'm going to decide that I'm going to start building some trust in a higher power. And hopefully I can build it to a higher level than what I had with the dope, right? I need to build that relationship, like where God is my go-to on no matter what it is. And the third step is simply the decision to begin the process to having that working relationship. It's just the decision. And you guys all know I'm kind of banging on the mic already. I've restored several cars, built hot rods and stuff like that. Now I've made decisions to build stuff and made plans and dreams and got all caught up. Oh yeah, this one's going to be really, really cool. And I'm going to do this. And we get all wrapped up in this. We make the decision we're going to do it. Maybe we buy the car, put it up on blocks in the driveway or whatever. And it feels really good. We're in the planning stage. We're excited, right? I'm going to do all this stuff. We got these big dreams. I've just made the decision. I haven't even put any action on that thing. Now that old bucket of bolts can sit out in the driveway and rot till the tires crumble off of it. And I've made a decision, but I haven't put any action back into it. And that's what the decision is about, that we're going to cross the line to here, is the decision is I can make all the decisions in the world, but until I start taking the action in the following 9 steps, the decision is meaningless. I can decide I'm going to do something tomorrow. If I don't actually do it, I can make all the plans and preparations if I have no follow through. Now, don't get me wrong. The beginning surrender that we have when we first come in here and we say, okay, man, I'm just done fighting. I mean, the relief of just letting go and putting down the fight and the struggle anymore was huge for me. It lightened my load. I started praying every morning, early on in recovery, the third step doesn't mean that this is where we're going to start praying, although it's not a bad idea, that we start working on this kind of stuff. But I'm just trying to get to that point, that clicking on those two couple of gears there. So anyway, we were looking for another way. In Narcotics Anonymous, we decide to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand Him. This is a giant step. We don't have to be religious. Anyone can take this step. All that is required is willingness. All that is essential is that we open the door to a power greater than ourselves. Our concept of God comes not from dogma, but from what we believe and from what works for us. That's a huge little word there. If it works for us, keep it. If you believe in Peter Pan and that shit's working for you, rock it till Peter Pan don't work no more. The whole doorknob stuff, I can't quite get into that kind of stuff, but the group of druggies, the good orderly direction, the basics that, just the power of we and living by spiritual principles of integrity, honesty, open-mindedness, willingness, that just by living by that, the decision to live that way and follow through with the rest of the steps and by doing that and allowing this higher power to come to us, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. My sponsor told me in the second step, take everything you thought you ever learned about religion and God to this point to the curb and park it there for now. We'll get busy working the rest of the steps. And if that version of God is supposed to be for you, then it will be true again for you again later on as you work the rest of the steps. But for now, we're going to start with whatever force is out there that pulled that monkey off your back, that pulled the craving beyond your mental control and the obsession and compulsion to use off of you so that you could have a little bit of clarity and stick around here. Whatever loved you enough to do that for you, that's the basic concept of God that we're going to start with. And we just let everything else come when it comes as it's supposed to. I don't have to figure it out. I love that our book tells us that we live our way into better thinking. We don't think our way there. So by the practical application of these steps and removing the blocks that distance us away from God and our higher power and people, then we get that closeness and the clarity will come as we work the steps. So if it works, keep it. The spiritual buffet thing, I love that. It talks about in our work, It Works How and Why book, that many of us in Narcotics Anonymous choose the eclectic approach of God, which means that I take a little bit about what I like about your higher power, and I take a little bit what you say works for you as your higher power, and I put together these little pieces and nuggets. I don't limit it to it's just only this and that, because to me that's limiting my God's ability to work. I open my mind to if it's working for somebody else and keeping the obsession compulsion removed for them, and it's keeping a smile on their face while they're doing it, it might work for me too. So that's the spiritual part does it work? Keep it. And if it doesn't mean that it isn't going to work, because it may work for me again 10, 15 years down the road again. If I think I don't want to limit this thing by this, like I said, it says in here, we open the door, and then we step through it and start taking the rest of the steps and let it come to us as it may. Many of us understand God to be simply whatever force keeps us clean. The right to a God of your own understanding is total and without any catches. Because we have this right, it is necessary to be honest about our belief if we are to grow spiritually. I love that at Narcotics Anonymous, that's as far as they take it. Any other idea of God is between you and your heart, your sponsor, the people you work with. NA doesn't push or infer any other religious beliefs in their books, unlike another fellowship that has lots of other religious prayers in their book and whatnot. Narcotics Anonymous does a very good job of keeping their nose out of the business of what you choose to call or the face you want to hang on it or any of that other stuff. It's like all Narcotics Anonymous says is go find one that works for you. And that's the most important thing. That is loving, caring, more powerful than your addiction. That's all we need to have. All right. We found that all that we needed to do was try. Or did I say the other part?
Yeah.
I missed is necessary to be honest about our belief if we are to grow spiritually. I think I missed that part, didn't I? Okay, because we have this right, it is necessary to be honest about our belief if we're to grow spiritually. And I believe that line's basically telling us, look, man, if you're sitting in here nodding your head saying you believe in God and you're lying to people, come clean on that stuff and talk to somebody about it. You know, I know for me, when my thinking was wrong, I don't want to tell you guys what I'm thinking because I already know what I'm thinking is kind of wrong, and I don't want you to talk me out of my arrogance and give me any other kind of proof. So I want to shut it down, you know. And if I don't give other people the opportunity to talk and share honestly with others in recovery, and most importantly, the people that are in recovery that it's obviously working for, you know, people that are just clean and crazy and always, you know, going through drama and you know, I mean, sorry, I don't miss me with that. I mean, that's not what I'm after here, man. I want to plug into some people that have found some answers and can be clean and relatively happy around here. So that's very important that we consider the source of our information, you know, because there's a lot of people around here that stay clean on coffee and bullshit and don't put a lot of work into this relationship with God. And it shows. And if we're honest with ourselves, we can usually see it. You know, how do they treat themselves? How do they treat other people? You know, are they still assholes all the time? I mean, I am occasionally still, but you know, I try not to be, you know, and you can tell people that are holding themselves accountable to holding a line, you know, that we want to be a living example of God's handiwork around here so we can be useful to people. We found that all we needed to do was try. When we gave our best effort, the program worked for us as it has worked for countless others. The third step does not say we turned our will and our lives over to the care of God. It says we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. We made the decision. It was not made for us by the drugs, our families, a probation officer, judge, therapist, or doctor. We made it. For the first time since that first high, we have actually made a decision for ourselves. That's a lot about that decision-making stuff that I was talking about earlier. I kind of jumped the gun on that, but that's exactly where that kind of fits in. I'm making the decision that I am going to have this working relationship that they talk about. You know, I'm making the decision that I'm going to pursue having a spiritual awakening and live by spiritual principles. The word decision implies action. This decision is based on faith. And most of us, it's blind faith in the beginning because until we have proof that God's going to work for us, it is blind faith. And it takes action and trust, just like a new friend. You know, I don't trust everybody right off the bat when I meet them. You know, through exchanges of friendships and talks and conversations and interactions, trust gets built over time and years. It's not automatic. You know, today I trust God 100% with everything. I even when things aren't going my way, I know God's got a better plan than me because he's proven to me very, very well. I doubted quite a bit sometimes when I was new, and I thought God might have had me confused with somebody else often, and that don't you know me, and all this other kind of stuff with my own arrogance. But he's actually proven to me that he could do a very good job in running my life. So blind faith turns into faith and trust as we push on through this process. We have only to believe that the miracle that we see working in the lives of clean addicts can happen to any addict with the desire to change. We must change. We simply realize that there is a force for spiritual growth that can help us become more tolerant, patient, and useful in helping others. So the third step decision is telling us that we're going to be of service to other people. That's one of the most important things. It's not telling us that it's going to give us the perfect 10 wife, the fat bank account, the nice car, the nice apartment or house. It's not giving us the checklist of all these things that it's going to give for us directly. It's telling us God's going to teach us to be more tolerant, patient, and useful in helping others. That God's going to use his love to work through us to help other people. And if that's just simply applying the first tradition of Narcotics Anonymous and staying interested in our common welfare, of being the greeter to the next newcomer that walks through the door, that's where this starts, is right there. You know, I tell you, man, my wife told me before I got clean, and I think she's even told me a few times since I got clean, that I'm the least sympathetic person she knows. I'm sorry. I just don't feel sorry for people. We're the creator of our own problems, 99% of it. You know, there's a small percentage of random shit sandwiches that we all get, but most of the crap that we go through, is because of our own design. a lack of discipline on our own parts, and we create the problem, and then I turn around and blame God for the problem. In reality, God's given me everything that I need. But the sympathy part was that I couldn't feel so much sympathy for many people. But being new and tore up from the floor up when I came here the last time, I can identify for the new guy that walks in the door each and every time they walk through that door. Even when they're putting on that fake plastic smile and trying to act like they don't really want to be here if they got the court card and all that other kind of stuff, I can see and read that pain. I can feel it and sense it. And I can also feel it when you go up and you make them feel loved and accepted and wanted to, like we want them to be here, and we make them feel important. I can also feel the energy change there too. That's one of the most important things that we do for newcomers around here. Not all the talking really good, hip, slick, and cool jargon that we got around here and all the cliches. It's how we make them feel loved when they come in here. Because most newcomers, we hardly remember anything about our first few meetings. Our heads are in the clouds and fogged up and messed up, but we do remember how the people made us feel at our first Narcotics Anonymous meeting. That energy, did they encourage us to come back? Did they really ask us how we were and act like they really wanted to hear our answer? Or were they just, blowing sunshine up our ass and pleasantries and, I really don't want to hear the problem, just keep on going, So that's part of what God is going to help us to do. God's going to help us to help other people. Many of us have said, take my will and my life, guide me in my recovery, show me how to live. The relief of letting go and letting God helps us develop a life that is worth living, not all selfish and self-centered. Surrendering to the will of our higher power gets easier with daily practice. When we honestly try, it works. And so a quick little story for me in this little thing. So I made that promise to God at 30 days clean that I was going to give him my best version of me. I wasn't going to lie, cheat, or steal. I was going to be I was going to give the best that I possibly could give for 1 year. Show me what you got year. That was my promise. At roughly another, that same day, actually, later on that night, the first time since I'd been clean in that 30 days, I went home after getting my 30-day key tag. I jumped my butt into bed and realized I hadn't hit my knees and prayed and said thank you yet for the day. Now, prior to that, the 29 days before that, even day 0, I got on my knees and begged for help. So that was the first night, and I immediately, my first response was like, we're cool, right, God? In 30 days, I'm good. And I was overwhelmed with fear. I was like, holy shit, I am doomed to repeat this experiment again. If I can be that tore up from the floor up, hating life, wanting to eat a bullet, in 30 short days, I go from God, please help me, I can't do this, to we're cool. I don't have to get out and thank you for it. I started crying like a little bitch, and I rolled back out of bed and I got on my knees and I said, God, what am I going to do? No matter how far I get through these steps, no matter what I do, I'm going to screw this thing all off again. What am I going to do? And I'm sobbing. And this voice out of nowhere came out and said, well, I know what'll bring you to your knees again. Quit smoking. Now, I was smoking 3.5 packs of cigarettes a day at the time. I was smoking them. I'd have in both hands sometimes. It was crazy. I bought the cheap, nasty Seneca smokes, and I bought large quantities of them over the internet. And and I was like, that will bring me back to my knees again. And that was really, so I talked to my sponsor about it the next day. I said, that will definitely, because I realized the need that I had to find something that was going to keep me in the surrendered position. That, when things start going good, I'm going to already start taking God for granted. And that was when the light bulb went on for me that surrender isn't just the event. My whole life, from the first time I came to my first meetings at 15 years old, I always thought this surrender was just the big event. The big pop when my head finally comes out of my ass and I'm going to, surrender finally. And yes, that was an event. But surrender at that moment for me, I realized that surrender was also a process. And that if I didn't stay in the process and keep applying these spiritual principles to my spiritual development, that I was going to get loaded. And So I talked to Mehdi the next day. I'm like, look, man, I said, this is what happened. I prayed, and it seemed like it didn't sound like my voice telling me to quit smoking, because I had no idea. I'd never tried to quit smoking since I was a young man, because I like anything else, I knew I couldn't. I wasn't even going to try to stop. And smoking that much, I didn't even think it was even possible for me. And he says, well, do your homework, man. He says, talk to other people in recovery that have quit. And it's a long old story, but at the end of it, 42 days clean, I quit smoking, and I haven't had a cigarette since. I used the patch for 2 weeks, and it did exactly what it talks about here, that surrendering gets easier with daily practice. It brought me back to my knees, where literally I was back to praying several times a day. And when I first quit smoking, man, I would dip in the parking lot, drop my keys at my car so I could touch my knee to the ground real quick and say, God, please help me get me through another day without a cigarette. And staying in that, and not only that, I also surrendered to whatever opportunity came my way to be of service. The group that I went to all the time at that time, they were getting ready to strip and wax the church floor, the room that we were going to rent, or that we were renting. And, I never volunteered to do that I wouldn't. And I volunteered to do that. Every little opportunity that I could find, instead of looking for the excuse at that, because up to that point, I was the kind of guy, if you asked me to help you, all I did was go to the excuse book to tell you all the reasons why I couldn't help you. And that right there was the turning point for me in my life, that I started to become willing to say, okay, yes, what can I do to fit this service into my life, instead of making excuses of why I can't serve. And it's amazing that for me, I found that no matter how much my plate has gotten full of service commitment, helping guys or whatever, just when I think it's like, oh my God, I can't sponsor one more guy, I can't do one more thing, God's always made a way. And no matter what, everything just, God runs it for me, and it works out better. Crazy. I never would have thought that I would be capable of doing the amount of service at the level that I do these days. I was too busy thinking about myself all the time. So anyway, surrendering gets hard. Surrendering to the will of our higher power gets easier with daily practice. When we honestly try, it works. Many of us start our day with a simple request for guidance from our higher power. Although we know that turning it over works, we may still take our will and our life back. We may even get angry because God permits it. I mean, right? Wouldn't he just take it from me? Please, take it. Remove it from me. Take away my decision-making capacities in this. But no, he gave us free will, and it's our choice what we're going to do with it, and we get it back every time. At times, and that's the other thing I wanted to read right there at that little part. There's this little line here in the step working guide on the third step, and this paragraph. Okay, it is significant that this step suggests we turn our will and our lives over to the care of God of our understanding. These words are particularly important. By working the third step, we are allowing someone or something to care for us, not control us or conduct our lives for us. This step does not suggest that we become mindless robots with no ability to live our own lives, nor does it allow those of us who find such irresponsible abilities attractive to indulge in such an urge. Instead, we are making a simple decision to change our direction, to stop rebelling at the nature and logical flow of events in our lives, to stop wearing ourselves out trying to make everything happen as if we were in charge of the world. We are accepting that a power greater than ourselves will do a better job of caring for our will and our lives than we have. We are furthering the spiritual process of recovery by beginning to explore what we understand the word God to mean to us as individuals. I hear people all the time hide behind stuff saying that, it must not have been God's will for this to happen or that to happen. It was God's will. I got approved for this car. I got an 800 and something credit score. I could go get qualified for anything I want out there, pretty much. That doesn't mean that that's God's will for me to have that just because I've got a great credit score and people are going to give it to me. Just because she says yes does not mean that's God's will for us. She could just be a sick, frightened newcomer looking for love anywhere she could get it from, guys. So just because she gives you the eye doesn't mean that she's meant for us, oh, I really want to help that newcomer girl. No other ladies are reaching out to her. I better go over there and help her. I'm such a nice guy. I'm sure I can do everything honorable, I'm sorry, dude. I'm one of those guys that stay away from women like the plague. I will help if there's no other women around, but I immediately try to give them phone numbers of other ladies that I know in recovery and get them and also let them know where there's a lot meetings with a lot of ladies with recovery at where they can go find sponsors and stuff like that too. So that's a kind of a different subject, but
you even lunge away from them in the parking lot.
I do. I've been chased from out there, chased around my own truck by a girl wanting to grab a hold of me out there in the Thai club. Yeah. If necessary, I will run. I will get in my car, start it up, roll the windows up as tight as I can, lock the doors, and get the hell out of there. Happy wife, happy life. All right. Although we know that turning it over works, we may still take our will and our life back. We may even get angry because God permits it. And I forgot. That's where I was going with that reading there. God gave us self-will for a reason, to go out and live life. That is definitely my opinion. I don't think that we're predestined, that we all have to be, this big service capacity or whatever. But I think it's all about balance, that I just can't be all take anymore, and I was all take my whole damn life. So I've got 38 years of all take and no give to make up for in this next chapter in my life right now. And that's why I feel that I'm kind of, I'm still way in debt as far as feeling that I owe more back to the Fellowship of Narcotics Anonymous by what I've already been given. But that doesn't mean that God doesn't want me to build a house and live my dream and have a comfortable retirement and drive a nice car and have a cool little extra car or whatever, if I'm willing to work for those things. But I don't do them at the cost of my recovery. When it comes down to it, if something's going to take the back seat, it's not my recovery to my life. It's not. I have to, like it says in the first step, recovery must come first. And still at 20 years clean, recovery comes first for me. I may dip down to just 4 meetings a week when I'm running to Utah every week. I'm building my house and stuff like that. But I get right back on my A game when I come back here because I just know that that's the way. I believe that's what God wants from me, and I don't think it's too much to ask. At times during our recovery, the decision to ask for God's help is our greatest source of strength and courage. We cannot make this decision often enough. We surrender quietly. I don't know where they got that from because most of us don't surrender very quietly in the beginning. It's a big struggle in the beginning. Most of us leave claw marks and teeth marks in it before we let go of it completely, but we learn to start letting things go as God proves to us that he has a better handle on things. At first, our heads reeled with the question, what will happen when I turn my will and my life over? Will I become perfect? We may have been more realistic than this. Some of us had to turn to an experienced NA member and ask, what was it like for you? The answer will vary from member to member. Most of us feel open-mindedness, willingness, and surrenders are the keys to this step. What will happen? What's God's will for me? Or the big long thing. I really feel that we don't always know what God's will is for us to do. Sometimes we got to get in motion and bump our heads against a closed and locked door here or there to see what God's will is for us sometimes. But most of us, if you're like me, almost always my life, I've known when I was doing stuff that I knew God didn't want me to do. And it was the persistence of pounding that square peg in a round hole, trying to force my will, that created all my problems in life. So surrendering means that I don't pound the square peg in a round hole anymore. I may be able to do it and get what I want one way or the other, but that does not mean that I should be doing it. And if I'm going to surrender, I need to start doing it a little bit more practically. So we have surrendered our will and our lives over to the care of a power greater than ourselves. If we are thorough and sincere, we will notice a change for the better. Our fears are lessened and faith begins to grow as we learn the true meaning of surrender. We are no longer fighting fear, anger, guilt, self-pity, or depression. And I love that line. We are no longer fighting fear, anger, guilt, self-pity, or depression. And NA talks about that there's, we only have one promise, and that promise is freedom from active addiction. And then we haven't seen a person fail who has done the deal. That's the essence of it. But this step's telling us that we're no longer fighting fear, anger, guilt, self-pity, or depression. And all those things I wrestled with most of my life because I was so damn selfish. I was just a spoiled little brat, king baby, and just, all those things. So I realized that force that brought us to this program is still with us and will continue to will continue to guide us if we allow it. God, it says also in the It Works How and Why, that I believe in the basic text too, in the step 11, that God's not going to force his goodness on us. That the main thing we have to do is continue to seek it. It's not going to just happen. I prayed often in the beginning, and I was like, God, rent a billboard, put a big sign, hit me over the head with a hammer if you got to, get my attention. I don't take subtle hints very well, even with my wife. I'm like, don't give me hints. Tell me what you want. I'm much better with the direct approach. If you're going to drop hints and wait for me to figure it out, I'm going to be oblivious to it. It works much better when God gets my attention. We're slowly beginning to lose the paralyzing fear of hopelessness. How many people have experienced that paralyzing fear of hopelessness? Locked on the couch, the remote control just out of reach, and so paralyzed that it's just too much effort to even. I'm watching the same rerun I've seen a million times. I hate the damn show, but it's just too much energy and effort. Bills stacking up, unemployed, getting ready to get kicked out of the house. Just that whole little paralysis and not being able to do a thing to change it, man. I've been locked into that before. We come to enjoy living clean and want more of the good things that the NA Fellowship holds for us. We know now that we cannot pause in our spiritual program. We want all that we can get. We are now ready for our first honest self-appraisal, and we will begin with step 4. So we got these lovely questions out of Step Working Guide. And what I'd like everybody to do is, I'm going to read the question, but I'm not going to go around the room in order. And what I'd like everybody to do is have the answer planned in your head in case I do call you on you, because I might. And everybody's going to have a turn at answering a question on this thing. It's the other side of that one. That's the spiritual principles question. The other side is step 3.
Step 1 about the one.
Then you didn't grab a new one that's laying on the table then yet. Do you need another one? There's no more over there. There you go. All right. So anyway, try to have that answer ready. And there's a bunch of people in here, so try to keep your answer to 120 seconds or less. Just have the quick little answer. And if it looks like that, some of these questions do need a little bit more than that, so bear with us on that. Just try to keep it short, and that way maybe everybody can get a second question or something like that. So anyway, step 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Making a decision. It is essential that we involve our heart and spirit in this decision. Though the word decision sounds like something that takes place mostly in the mind, we need to do the work necessary to go beyond the intellectual understanding and internalize this choice. That's a huge thing, dude. I knew I was powerless for a long, long time, but my heart still wanted to fight this thing for a long time too. I didn't want to give up and let God run shit. I still had bright ideas, and until I ran out of bright ideas of how I was going to make this thing work, I had to go do those things. And it wasn't until I had that complete acceptance that I was never going to find true happiness in this life, and it just wasn't in there for me, and there wasn't anything I could do about it before I finally did surrender to that level. And once you get to that point, it's a lot easier to follow the rest of these steps. Number 1, and if you have the numbers on the step working guide, if you had all the questions numbered, this would be the second question in the book under the making the decision portion. And it says, can I make this decision just for today? Albert?
Yes, I can.
Simple question. There you go. It's probably the only way we can make it. I can't make it for a lifetime because it's going to be back in my lap. The minute autopilot is automatic. Self-will, it comes back. I have to keep surrendering over and over. Number 2, do I have any fear or reservations about making this decision? Kenny?
No.
You don't have any fear? You don't have any fear that God may want to turn you into Mr. Rogers, sweater-wearing guy that, just does nothing but does good for other people and doesn't do anything for himself and,
What's the fear about that? Even if he did, it's not a bad thing.
Very good. Very good. That's the good point, is that really God couldn't possibly do any worse with our lives than we've done so far. So even if we do wind up being a Hare Krishna, wearing a robe, running around the airport, handing out flyers, it's probably going to be a lot more peaceful and happy, contentful kind of life than what we were leading in the first place. But again, I don't think God wants us to necessarily do that. Maybe you're called to do that. And if that be so, then follow your calling. I mean, I think we all have to, that's what this is all about. Whatever our higher power, however it speaks to us in our heart, that's what we have to get to. Not my idea of what your God does for you or anybody else's God, but what does that little voice that's inside your gut tell you? And start living and listening to that little voice instead of this head and that head, paying attention to this thing. If you're like me, I almost always knew what God wanted me to do in the heart, but it was too quiet compared to what this head said and that head said down there, and it always lost the battle. And in the end, it wasn't even trying to communicate with me. I didn't even know I had a spirit to be spiritually bankrupt when I got here. Didn't even know it existed because I'd ignored it for so damn long. So self-will. Have I acted on self-will today? Jeffrey?
Yes. Took a nap.
4 hours is not a nap, Jeffrey. That's a whole sleep cycle. That's a whole day's sleep for most of us. That's a nap. Okay. Yeah, I can't wait till I retire. Now you won't sleep all night, but that's the downside. All right, number 4. Has my self-will affected others? Antonio?
Yes.
Positively or negatively?
Both, but I was answering it negatively.
Okay, that's how I would have taken it too. All right, number 5. Will pursuing my goals harm anyone else? So the proper use of our will. So if I want to go do something, well, I really want to go help that newcomer girl over there. She really could use the help. Chances are I'm probably not the best person to be doing that for. X, what do you say on that one?
I say, yeah.
You gonna help her? It will. Pursuing your goals may harm someone else. Okay, number 6. In the pursuit of what I want, is it likely that I will end up doing something that adversely affects myself or others? So there's a lot like talking about most of us have some decisions that we got to make in New Recovery, where we're going to live, what we're going to do. 7, will I have to compromise any of my principles to achieve this goal? Bro, you hiding out in the back?
No.
Okay. It's a pretty vague thing. That whole thing almost needs to be answered by the same person through that little questioning section. But you guys kind of get the gist of, probably your own questions in your head of what you would be asking that question to be, to decide to divorce and leave the wife because she's not clean yet, or, there's a lot of decisions that we have to decide, what is it God's will or mine? That was really one of the reasons why my first couple of years, I just kind of let everything fall where it went. I didn't push the issue. If my wife would have left me, I wouldn't have chased her down the driveway. I just wasn't going to chase and chase anything anymore. If it was meant to be in my life, it was going to stay. And if it wasn't meant to be in the first place. And I was willing to let God call all the shots. Number 8, could I stay clean on my own will? Sean?
Nope.
No? How many people try to stay clean on their own? How long was your best you ever did it for?
10 minutes. 2 years.
89 days.
12 days.
6 months.
I had 4 years, went out for 6 months, and came back and white-knuckled a year. It was a pretty miserable year.
What is white knuckle that you're in?
I mean, I came back after 6 months of burning a hole in my nose and doing a lot of damage in a short 6 month period of time. And I came back, I went to 2 Narcotics Anonymous meetings and said, I ain't doing this crap no more. You guys are a bunch of cult and no good, blah, 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 blah. And I just wasn't ready to come back here. So I went out and I white knuckled it and I didn't use for a year. Nothing. I mean, I was absolutely clean for a year. And, yeah, it was a miserable time in my life. Very, very dark. But I mean, it was just like, I'm going to do this because I knew I couldn't continue to use and keep my family and not go to prison. And at the end of the year, it was like, man, I got to do something. And so I started doing something else different, a drug that I didn't think was going to put me in jail. And I did that drug for quite a few years. The God of my understanding. Anyway, so yeah, we may be able to stay clean. And then later on, I couldn't put together a day. You know, I had a 14-year run where my best day clean was like 7 beers and 3 Lortabs. That was the cleanest day I had in 14 years. And that was trying really hard. That was crazy, man. I was like doing near beer experiments. I was buying imported fake beers. I was doing everything I could to try to trick my brain into fucking just getting off of the alcohol and the opiates. I had a CDL at the time, so I had to be careful about what I had in my system in case I got popped for a quiz and to keep my job. So I was doing the drugs that I knew I could keep my job with because, you know, I had a doctor and the other stuff was legal. And I think that's why I stayed out there so long. If I would have went back to my original favorite stuff, I probably wouldn't have, the relapse probably wouldn't have lasted 14 years, but I probably would have wound up back in prison, something like that. So the God of our understanding, number 9, does the word God or even the concept itself make me uncomfortable, Bradley?
No, but yes, at the same time.
Think God could love you? You think God could find it in his heart to love you?
I mean, I know God is with me. He hasn't left me. It's me just ignoring it. I keep looking away. Not even lying.
Yeah.
Is that the part that makes you uncomfortable? Makes sense.
Yeah, it's like wanting to blot it out. You know, it's like part of the praying part was like, I really don't want to talk to God because he might, you know, am I really ready for it? You know?
It's the shame that gives it.
Yeah.
I mean, we do a lot of fucking problems. God definitely caused a lot of fucking problems. Yeah. The insanity and the idea of him bringing me back from it was definitely hard to get around.
Yeah, we can talk a lot of stuff to everybody else, but we know God knows everything we've done. Mm-hmm. Every dirtbag, slimy thing that we've ever done knows everything. And there ain't no lying and running from that. And I think that's what we want to hide from God from the most, because we ourselves don't want to look at that stuff, which is exactly what we're going to look at a little bit in this 4-step one we got coming up here. That's part of this decision, that we're going to face everything in recovery. And we're going to look at those things and we're going to put them down on paper. We're not going to rub our noses in it. We're just going to get to the point on it and move on from there. Number 10, right? Mm-hmm. Have I ever believed that God caused horrible things to happen to Derek or was punishing Derek?
Yes, I have. I've been punished because by God, I truly believe in that. He saved my life. He might not have saved my life and put me in a position that I wanted to, but I believe the decades of prison time, jail time I've done was God saving me, because I'm sure I would have been here if I wouldn't have did the time and matured to the person I am now. So I believe God has punished me. He's gave me some lashings. And when I was doing my time, that's how I accepted doing this time. Right. I said, this is my punishment. And you know, it's guys walking around miserable, but I accepted it because I believe that was my punishment by God.
That was a great way to look at it while you're still while you were still there, being able to look at it like that. I mean, I felt the same way about God most of my life. I blame God for I caught a lot of juvenile crime. And it's like every time I sneezed, I picked up a case. It was crazy. I couldn't do anything. It was like my friends were getting by with 10 times more stuff than I ever got away with. And I get rolled up and I'd be like, God, yeah, you won't let me have any fun. I was just, because I always felt God was out there, but God didn't want me to have any fun. I mean, come on, I can't covet my neighbor's wife. I mean, come on, really? That makes your top 10 of things here, and you really don't want me to have any fun if that's against the rules. I didn't understand the spiritual principles. I mean, I understand that today, that if I'm coveting my neighbor's wife, I'm not appreciating my own wife. I understand the spiritual health of it today. As a young person, I did not understand what those kind of things were about. So I just looked at God like, man, you just don't want me having no fun or getting any vengeance or getting anything else. And I look back at it now, and I know 100%, just like you, that had God not slowed my roll down as a juvenile, I'd be doing life in prison or dead right now for sure. Had it not been slowed down to the degree that it was, had God went in there and been like this little speed bump of slowing me down and making me pump the brakes on stuff unwillingly, but pump the brakes, I don't think I would be here. And I hate to look at that too sometimes, because sometimes, a lot of people didn't get that opportunity, so it's like, oh, well, I mean, so God blessed me that way, looking out for me, all these other people that died prematurely. I hate to get caught up in all that kind of stuff, because I can start really, well, what about them? What made them unworthy? What made me worthy? I mean, because I know the kind of stuff that I did, I ain't worthy of nothing. I don't deserve what I got. And if I had to pay the bill for all the stuff I did, I couldn't afford to pay the bill today. So God really has given me plenty of grace. Does my higher power communicate with me, Jerome?
Yes.
I think I skipped one, but
Yeah.
you skipped one.
I'll go back to it. Does your higher power communicate with you today?
Yes. By giving me, the trials and tribulations I have, because now I have first world problems. You know what I mean? Getting my ID, getting my life together. As much of a process as it's been, the struggle lets me know that I can make it through anything. And if I can make it through anything sober, it's really affirmation that I'm on the right path.
Good answer. Back to the one I missed. Is my higher power working in my life today, Albert?
Of course he is.
You were too quick before, so.
Yeah.
Another quick.
In my life in all aspects, as long as I'm willing to allow him to do so. When Albert takes back his own will, then I'm in trouble.
Number 13, am I struggling with the changing beliefs about the nature of my higher power, Adam?
I did. Because I was raised going to church, raised Lutheran, and it was all boxed up and packaged. Here's what God is. And when I first came into the program, I did struggle with that. What is it? And I looked at other religions and I looked at other faiths, and like that smorgasbord you talked about, I kind of pieced it together, a little of this and a little of that. So I did struggle, but not anymore. I definitely have a higher power that works with me, works for me, works with me.
Okay. Turning it over, section, question number, it would be 26 out of the Step Working Guide. Will I allow my higher power to work in my life today? X.
Yes, I will, because I think that's the best thing for me. I look at myself in the mirror and see how powerless I am. I can't even get my own self off the bed, man. So if it works from the moment I open my eyes to the time I close my eyes, I don't have no problem except that it works better that way.
I forget I put these in big print. I don't need my glasses. I can actually read this without my glasses. That's nice. Number 27, right? 16. Does my higher power care for my will and my life? Michael?
Absolutely.
Does he care what you think, what you want? Does he care what you think and what you want?
Yeah, I'm aligned with him. I do his will and wake up every day and pray to him. I do service and I'm good. Don't lie, cheat, steal, follow commandments, and stay in the word.
That's an important part too. I mean, I really believe that, like, I've been helped so much on this house I'm building up in Utah. And
Even little details,
right,
Every little
just
detail.
little things that I don't even know I need popping up before I know I need them. And just the right individuals springing up here and there in a way that, I mean, going from a God that I thought hated me and really did not favor me at all, and was not very pleased with me for most of my life, to know that God is like, and I don't, not like this major reward. I'm still out there. I got the shovel and I'm working for it. But, God helping me, get things done. And man, I mean, sometimes it's like, I'm so much further ahead most of the time than what I mean, every year I have like a little list of where I want to be at the end of the season of getting the house done. And every year it's been like way ahead of what I thought, and I haven't gotten into that self-will run riot crazy, except for the first year we were framing. It was like trying to beat the snowman before it came. And that was, Jeff remembers being there, trying to get that thing framed up. And, I mean, that was a little pressure because Mother Nature was not being as forgiving as what God was doing for me. But literally everything that I needed being done for me. When you feel like you're living life hand in hand with God, like, the give and take, like friends do for each other, that he's got my back, I got his, and I believe that, I mean, the late nights in the parking lot, standing out here talking to guys and the extra phone calls and all the little stuff that we do for each other, man. I really think that those that stick closer to God and do his work get more rewards from that too. I don't expect it. I don't look for it, but I acknowledge it when it happens. And it has undoubtedly happened in my life for me. Opportunities that are nothing short of the grace of God. I mean, square pegs fitting in round holes, easier than I could have ever driven them. Just if you can understand that. Have there been, is that where we're at? So, okay. Have there been times when I have been unable to let go and trust God to care for the outcome of a particular situation, Raul?
Yes.
You're just so specific. Don't tell too much.
It does say yes or no.
It does say yes or no. And it is nice to keep some of them that way. I mean, there's no need to make them bigger than they need to, because when we're all looking at those questions and we're applying them to our life as we're answering them, it's like, yeah. And the more we're saying, that's what this stuff is all about. The more I'm going, yeah, and my head's bobbing up and down and I'm agreeing, I'm like, yeah, this is it. And it's just welcoming. It's I mean, the energy of how God works is exactly what we're doing right here. Do I take action? Have there been times that I've been able to let go and let go? Trust for care of the outcome. 18. Do I take action to turn it over? What's the action?
Prayer.
Christopher the K?
Letting go, stop trying to control the situation and basically surrendering to my higher power, to God, help me.
The visual I have for that, man, I mean, that first 2 years, my wife was whacked out on Lortabs, and since I wasn't stealing half of her script anymore, and she was doing them all herself, she was really getting further and further out of control. And we were closer in the 15th and 16th year of marriage to divorce than we ever had been before. And like at 7 months clean and just before 2 years clean were two pivotal points in my life where, man, I was just really praying for knowledge of God's will for me and us, because I didn't want to be the hypocrite that turned his back on his wife. I get clean, and just because she's not ready to get on board with it, I didn't want to be that guy. And I absolutely wanted God's will in both of our lives to make that stuff work. And the exercise that Mehdi taught me was, you take her, you put her in God's hands, and you go help the next new guy. You go to the next meeting, and the secret is no matter how big your problems you think you got, there's somebody in that room that's got it worse than you do. Find that person and see what you can do to help them out. And 99% of the times, while I was doing that, whatever the big problem was, made its decision on its own, solved itself, or just out of the blue, the answer or some kind of, what my next move was. And, no, you need to treat her more like a queen. You need to start treating her better. Literally when I wanted to run, I kicked up my level of love that I gave my wife. I kicked in going and taking her to meeting or to movies more regularly. She was willing to go to church, and it was her idea. And I was like, I'm with you. Let's go do it. And I was like, we did it every year for like 3 years, trying to get her around with all those kind of things. But mostly that was the exercise of, whatever the problem is, say, okay, God, I this is bigger than me. I don't even want to try to mess with it. It's above my pay grade. Here you go. You got it, and not mess with it. And I'm just going to go over here and see what I could do for your kids while that's going on. And then shazam, a miracle happens for me, and here we are, be 36 years in December. So that's pretty cool. Marriage. And most of it has been pretty good. 19, are there any words that I say regularly? Take my will in my life, guide me in my recovery, show me how to live. Clean. Yeah, it does not say that in the literature. Somebody hand wrote that up there, even though it's, people say it and add it to the end. That's not what and that's the other thing that I love about Narcotics Anonymous too, is that you notice in the basic text it says that many of us have said. It doesn't say many of us have prayed. Narcotics Anonymous doesn't even push that on us. They leave it said, because there are atheists. There are people that don't believe. They have different beliefs around here. So in the interest of being all inclusive, that everybody is welcome, that everybody has a right to be here in recovery, no matter what your belief may be or may not be, we have this, they were going to call it quote. That's why I kind of call it a quote, because they say many of us have said. So if you're saying something, what this is saying? A saying is a quote, but it's not technically a prayer because they don't call it a prayer. So that top writing on that thing where they wrote step prayer, it's not the third step prayer. Everybody calls it that, but in the literature, it says many of us have said. People call it all that time, but they left. Believe me, every word in this basic text was fought for tooth and nail by recovering addicts. So if it's in there worded a certain way, that it's in there specifically worded the way it's supposed to be. And the basic text came out early in 82, its first edition. By late 82, the second edition came out. By 83, I believe, I could be wrong, late 83, I think, is when the third edition came out. And then it got revised pretty quickly. By the time, I'm just throwing a number out here now. I think it was like by 89, I think we had 88, I think we had the fifth edition, and somewhere in the early 90-ish, or somewhere around there is when the sixth edition that we have now is finally where they kind of let it be. So there's a lot of changes, although all of the changes, except for the first to the second edition, were pretty small. All right, let's get back to this thing here and wrap it up. Spiritual principles, right? Or did I do the other? Okay, so we did that other one. And when we close tonight, we'll close with a third step prayer. There's a group.
Prayer or
I was hoping somebody would call me on that. I really was. I really. Somebody else had another. I can't remember it right now, but somebody else called it a different thing, and I really liked it because quote sounds so informal. Prayer is just like saying God. We say God just for convenience because it's just an easier way for everybody to fit it. No matter how you believe it.
Third step thing.
Yeah. Night. Moving on. So, faith in, so let's just do the next one. Spiritual principles, number 20. Am I fighting anything in recovery today, Bradley?
Yeah. Everything.
Pretty much everything. Yeah, that's honest. 21. Has hope, faith, and trust become positive forces in my life? Chris, since you've been short over there.
Has hope, faith, and trust become positive forces in my life? Absolutely. So, there's no other option. I gotta have hope, faith, and trust. When I come in the rooms and hear other people's stories, and that gives me some hope. And then seeing what God has done for me, I put my trust into Him or it.
He, her, it, that, however we want to look at it, right? And I love speaking just in general terms. You know, it's nice to leave religion and politics at that door, because the religion tends to divide us. You know, so anything that divides is not in the spirit of unity. And people want to know exactly what it is that I believe, and I live an attractive enough life for them, they will come and ask me about that. And then we can share about that after the meeting. Moving on, do I feel that I'm now ready to turn it over once and for all? Kenny?
Yes.
Everything?
Yes.
The whole enchilada?
Everything.
Both dogs, the car, and her?
Yeah.
Okay. 23. Does my surrender in the first step help me with the third step? Antonio?
I'm looking at the steps right now.
Okay, well, we'll get back to you then.
Yeah.
So,
does my surrender in the first step help me in the third step? Yeah, of course. One is needed to put the other, I feel.
if there is no complete defeat, there is no need for a higher power. Therefore, if I'm not done, God can't do shit with me till I'm done. Sorry. I have to be done. I have to throw my hands up in the air and say, okay, whatever. And without that happening, that doesn't clear the way for God to be working in my life. And I think this is the very final thing. So the back of the page has all of the questions out of the spiritual principles questions that are in the step working guide. And it's just printed that way because I had room and extra paper, and I hate to waste sides of paper. But they're very good little questions to keep asking yourself, am I really? It's easy to bullshit ourselves and say I'm living in God's will and God this and God that, but what do my feet really say? Surrender. What am I doing to reinforce my decision to allow my higher power to care for my will in my life? What am I doing? Am I praying regularly? Am I being of service? How does the third step allow me to build on the surrender I've developed in step 1 and 2? Willingness. In what ways have I demonstrated willingness in my recovery so far? Been doing things you don't want to do? If everything's still fun and the honeymoon's still going on, yeah, it'll change. And then it becomes work, and then it becomes service. B, am I fighting anything in my recovery? What do I think would happen if I became willing to let recovery prevail in that area of my life? Like, you can have her, but not my money. You can have that, but not this. Giving and taking. And all the rest of the steps evolve into being more complete surrender too. Some of this stuff is a little high end for really the third step decision, because till I get a little bit deeper in the steps, my surrendering process got deeper the further we went, especially after 6 and 7, and really taking a good look at what it was that I was dealing with, because until we do an inventory, we don't really know exactly what it is that we need to do. I buy that old hot rod thinking about restoring it, thinking it's got some good parts on it. And I tear that thing apart, find out the inside of it's rusted out, and there ain't nothing left to build off of. I almost could have built a brand new car from scratch rather than starting with the piece of crap I drug back home. I've done that before. It's kind of like that's what we're going to find out in the inventory when we try to find out what's good and what we're going to keep and what we may be throwing out. And until we do an inventory and really take that looking at it, we don't really know what it is. All we know is kind of like a house that's had this big old house party. Remember Animal House on the movie, and they tore these frat house parties, and it would just demolish the whole house. And well, until you pull all the garbage out of it, you don't know how bad that house is, whether there's any drywall or anything salvageable, or whether you might as well just level the whole thing and start over and rebuild it. It's kind of what the inventory is about, is finding out what's still good, what are the good bones that we're going to hang on to, and the assets that we're going to start building on to recreate our lives. And that's what we're going to find out in the 4th step when we get working on that next week. And I got a really cool way of I've got a really good feeling about the way we're going to lay out the 4-step next week. And I think people are going to get more out of it than any of the ones we've done before. Just because I think it's the simplest version out of everything that I've tried and worked with guys on so far. And we're probably going to wind up having to take 2 weeks, and we're going to write on it right here. So we'll have plenty of notebooks for people to start off in. There won't be any worksheets. It will be just a little bit of reading on the basic text to get us started next week, and just a little bit of direction. And we're probably
Do you bring a list of known?
more will be revealed. We got notebooks, and if you have a pen that you like, bring it. Some people like their own writing pen, you know. If you have a really big pen with lots of ink in it, it's not going to be that. It's not going to be writing a life story. We're going to be basically, dealing with resentments, fears, dishonesty, selfishness, and there's always the shame and guilt section, because those are all things that we have to deal with, to put to rest. But very simple. It's an inventory. We're just taking an inventory, right? We're not counting every washer in the jar. We just got a jar of washers. And we're going to kind of leave it like that. So let's close this thing up. Moment of silence for those of us who need it.
Kenny was farting.
Take our will,
Our lives.
guide us in our recoveries, and show us how to live clean.
Keep coming back. It works if you run.